We decide where we want to go before we get settled. You know, that's the kind of the phase of life that many of us are in. And I think partially as a result of that, like, yeah, we've got a really diverse neighborhood, but it's only some like certain people who vote. And, you know, the people who vote are older. They're usually like upper middle class. They usually own their homes. They usually own cars. You can see some big differences in terms of voter turnout. Like people that live in apartment buildings are substantially less likely to vote. Younger people, substantially less likely to vote.
That's because I get things in my mailbox that talk about mortgage rates, and nobody talks to me about anything that matters to me. And I mean that legitimately. Like, why are y'all dropping off pamphlets in my apartment mailbox about homeowner-related fiscal issue? Like, I mean, I get maybe I need to be aware the tax rate went up because it's going to hit me in my rent. But, like, you know, like, oh, my, see, that's the issue. It's like everything's based off of this, like, and it's not even just like a politics thing. Marketing does the same damn thing all the time. Marketing goes,
the targeting's off, right?
Oh, look at that. The average watch time is down. It must mean that people have no attention spans. So they spent like 20 years building narratives off of stuff instead of accepting the fact that they were just boring the whole time, and everyone has attention spans if you're interesting. And politics kind of like said young people are never going to care. That's my whole life I've been listening. I'm 33, and I've had my whole life basically having old people tell me I'm in theory not voting. Even though most people I know like at least have some interest in the political process, some interest. But then like if you're an English politician here, you have to like, well, nobody talks to the English people, so I don't know about the French side. I legitimately have zero idea what the French side is
at the city level. Yeah.
No idea. Couldn't tell you. For all I know, on the French side, stuff is super dope. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But I know that over here and on the English side, it's like there's no information. And like even you, like you don't have an egg. You don't have like couldn't find, or if you do, I couldn't find it. Couldn't find stuff on you. I'm like, how?
Oh yeah, dude. I'm old school. Like I'm terrible with stuff like that. Like I've got my girlfriend's in communications and marketing, and like she can't get over the fact that I'm not on Insta. Like I'm not on TikTok. I'm like, I am an old fogey, man. I'm an old school guy in a young person's body. It's terrible. And I know it's terrible. Just like
probably how you got elected.
Well, I mean, if you want to get into that conversation about how so much of social media is fucking evil, then pardon the language, but it's terrible. I hate it. And I only do it. It is a tool, but it's also a tool that is very dangerous. And I've seen the ways in which it's dangerous, and it's not just here. You know, you see it like, Jesus, Twitter. Oh my God. Like you want to talk about Twitter echo chambers where nothing useful is said, like go on to Twitter. Twitter's good for like sports, stand-up comedy, and like hobbies. You don't talk politics on Twitter because there's nothing healthy that's being said. There's no healthy civic discussions. Facebook, borderline. Facebook is borderline. I think Instagram can be cool because you can really highlight. Dope. Yeah, you can like highlight like local stuff in a much simpler way. You know, I don't have that reflex, but like I try. You know, I'm just like I hate social media, so I only half try. But man, like if I wasn't in this job, if I didn't need social media for work, I probably wouldn't be on social media. I'd say like to hell with that.
I respect that. I hear what you're saying. I think that there's a lot of dangers in social media because there's a lot of ignorance surrounding it. And if we like
a lot of anger too, you know, you get people acting in ways, and again, not judging, right? Like I've been this way myself, right? You get me on the phone, you get me face to face, chances are we're going to have a great conversation. But when people get behind their keyboards, there is a pretty decent chance that they're going to be a bit of an asshole. And we see it. We see it everywhere, man.
COVID, okay, I'm going to say COVID shifted the attitude of the whole world a little bit. And like on the reels, I see a lot more empathy. And Facebook jail, I like Facebook jail. Because I've never gone to Facebook jail because I don't say the kind of stuff that puts you in Facebook jail. People out there.
I like that.
It's a real thing. So here's what happens. Person says an attacking thing. It's always an attack. I've read hundreds of comments where people went to Facebook jail. They go this, you're and insert something, or they say all people, and it's always some absolutionist statement. They always do it. Every single one from this. And then other people flag them and say this is bullying. That's what happens. It's democratic. Facebook is actually a little democratic like that. It's not as automated as the first one. The first time you did it, it's because you pissed off enough people that said you're an asshole that Facebook now knows you're an asshole. Then Facebook goes so hard on you that you can't even say certain things, and it has a lot of preferences of how it's got some racism built into this, a few other issues as it's evolving. But what it's basically doing is if you say some wild attacking level stuff, like if you start attacking people, you go to Facebook jail, and for 30 days you can't log in. And I've watched the impact it's had, and everybody's toned down because, like, yo, here's the thing. People acted like Facebook is private and it's like being in a park. So everybody's like in a park yelling inflammatory things.
It's a public square. Yeah.
Now imagine everybody learns their little lesson now, and over the next year we all get a little more civil with it. Now Facebook's blessed because, yo, my Facebook's not like that. I don't interact with stuff that's like that, and I don't ever respond to people in a way where I'm also really good with how I answer you. I will customer service you into oblivion, and you will not be able to come back at me. But like,
kill them with kindness. Yeah.
Not necessarily kindness, but I pick my words so carefully because everybody just does the semantic debate game, and it's so boring.
Yeah.
It's a boring game on Facebook. However, it's so good for brand building because you get to just constantly have your like positions and your ideas and your flowing. So if you can find a way to create civil discourse by often just how you respond to people, right? Being civil with it. They look dumb. You also have every right to say, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, I don't want to talk to a cat lady the other day. And then she wanted to talk to me. And I'm like, why do you want to? I told you I don't want to talk to you. And she kept and then I just ghosted her in the middle of the conversation because I decided I didn't want to keep doing this. And I told her at the jump, I didn't want to do this. And I have no obligation to finish the conversation with you. And that's the thing where, like, Facebook people kind of like you don't have to respond. You just don't have to do it.
Normally, I would agree with you.
Well, maybe you might literally have to because
that's part of the challenge from like it's one of the things where like I've started telling people, like, you know what, if you want to discuss this, we can have a call. I will come to meet you. I will come to your house and talk about it with you. Like, I will give you my time and energy. Even a private message can go a really long way, but having a lot of these discussions in public in ways where, like, even if the person who asks the original question is like, or expresses the original frustration is relatively content, there's always someone that jumps on. It's just a numbers game, right? So I had, like, it's difficult for me in my position to say, like, no, like, I'm not going to do it. I've still said that. I've told people, like, no, I'm not going to be answering every single thing on the groups. Like, y'all know how to reach me, right? Like, Facebook isn't the only way to reach me. If you have a real problem and you want a solution, then you got to get in touch. And then we'll talk about solutions, because I'm more than happy to work with people to find solutions. But if all you want to do is post and argue with strangers on Facebook, I'm not going to be a part of that. And, you know, a lot of elected officials have a lot of trouble with that. I know people that have been serving for years and years, and they're leaving politics because they're done with the social media, like the trouble, the stress, man. Like, it's real. It's not there for everyone. But when the expectation is that we respond to everything, and we get in trouble if we don't, because, oh, well, what are you doing on Facebook if you're not gonna respond? For elected officials, that can be a pretty tough thing to balance, you know, and it can be a risk to say, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, that's what I basically did a year and a half ago. I said, you know what, I'm going to keep in touch with people on Facebook. I'm going to give them the heads up. I'm going to share what I'm working on. I'm going to share all sorts of good stuff as much as possible. Good news, because even in bad times, there are good things going on. We just got to look for them. But, you know, if people start going off, like, no, you can't feed the trolls, you know, you can't feed the trolls.
I feel like though, like everything you said is acceptable, and like, I mean, I'm part of Thrive NDG. It has 7,500 members in it, and that is
Most of them are okay.
not even 10% of NDG. And that's assuming that everyone there lives in NDG, and I know for a fact at least 3 people don't.
Yeah, at least 3, yeah, for sure.
So
And
that's not even a
that's
reflection of anything. It's like a drop in the bucket. Yeah. And I think like people attribute, especially in online communities, they think their voice is important, and I'm like, no, it's not. I mean,
well, yeah, and when you consider the fact that like it's a much smaller
relax,
number of
Moro,
those
with your 7.6K. Still 7.6K out of what? The greater Montreal area.
Is Moro fact checking you live?
He did. He just fact checked me live because I said 7.5.
Moro.
It is what it is. At least he's here watching, and it's blessed. And it's an amazing group in terms of the accomplishment of it, and it's super cool. But so like, yo, if 100 people in that group are mad at me, okay.
And it's usually the same 100 people. That's something else I've learned. You want to talk to people, go reach out to people. A lot of people appreciate it. I've been doing that more. I've been reaching out to people one-on-one, and so many of them, I'll be like, oh, hey, I thought I'd add you. I saw you in the groups. We know a lot of the same people. I figured you probably live in the neighborhood. So many people are like, hey, that's really cool. Bro, thank you for doing it. Yeah, man. People love that. Yeah, for sure.
So I think you can get away with saying, I don't want to engage in this public discourse. Feel free to DM me as much as you freaking want. And because part of my day job is actually to like tell agents how to answer angry people on our Facebook ads and things like that. So if you really run the law of numbers thing, most people, you're never answering on Facebook. The rule of thumb is you are never answering the person. You're always answering the audience.
The wider audience, yeah.
And that person,
I've had people remind me of that more than once
and so
recently.
And no matter what happens in that conversation, I can tell you one thing. If I don't see your name, I'm not going to think of you, and you might be misplaying this a bit in terms of younger people. Like if I don't see you, I'm getting to know Alex Montenegro. I don't know how to say his fucking name. I'm getting to know
Montagano.
It's because it's like the Count of Monte Cristo and a few other things pop into my head all at the same time, and it fumbles me a bit. And his personality exudes through the way he interacts with people, and he don't care who likes him or hates him, and I appreciate that. Moro's doing his little I'm gonna post me and Matthew walking around NDG being troopers together campaign, and I'm being reminded of places I once ate at back when they were pre-elder times. And I think you ate somewhere too recently, or you went on a podcast with somebody, and I'm like, who's this NDG winning podcast, my guy? Let's talk. I want to know who you are because you're a podcast.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of stuff. I think makes you look more present, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be hot topic. In fact, I would argue I would love to see, if I were to say this, my local politicians telling me what they do that's not political.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. It's a difficult balancing act, It's I think I've gone through kind of phases where I've maybe put up a little bit more personal stuff and just day in the life sort of thing, because it's social media. My friends are on there too, and I don't want to just bombard their feeds with political stuff. Nobody wants that.
Fuck your friends. No offense to yourself. When we're talking about social media, you have to get to the part where you're like, no, this isn't personal. There is a 0 part of everyone's social media that is 0% personal ever, and everyone is wrong about this since time. Just because you don't understand,
age is past, huh?
Just because nobody understands Facebook because they believe the hype doesn't change the reality of social media. You're doing it to accomplish something, just like everyone else is. It's all a little influencer game. Everyone on social media is a mini influencer. It doesn't matter if you like it. That's the reality of it. So it's how much you want to play the game, however what you want, it doesn't matter. But if you're there as a politician, my guy, if your friends don't want to see your stuff, they can mute you. It's a real button.
That's true, yeah. I'd be curious to know, how many of my friends have muted me.
I know I go live 6 to 7 days a week.
The mute, it is a very useful tool. I use it all the time. Yeah, with friends and just about anyone else. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I want to go back to just, you know, you a little bit, and